Harmony House is a shelter for women and their children who have experienced domestic violence. Well, of course, the pod that they have at Harmony House is a very tight one, so they could not risk their children going to school. What did they do? They set up a homeschool pod with the kids having their own private teacher. Our reporter Julie Buin caught up with the executive director to find out more.
Ray, as the executive director of Harmony House, you're the only second stage transitional house that supports women who are vulnerable to domestic violence and their families, obviously, as well. How has COVID-19 treated you?
Oh, it's been rough. We lost a lot to COVID-19. The women who live with us really depend on community supports to get them through. When you lose your home, your family, your finances, your security, you really, really count on the community to wrap around you and support you. And community is exactly what we lost to COVID-19. There were no more group support meetings. There were no more NA. There was no more AA. There was no more seeing your therapist. There was no more seeing your doctor. There was no more seeing your lawyer. There was no more treatment of any kind. COVID-19 kind of left everyone in almost a state of jail, where you just kind of stayed home and hoped for the best. And when you've got women who are going through trauma, that's not a great place to be. So
Yeah.
we tried really hard. We got online counseling, but it's just not the same, unfortunately, as sitting with a group of peers in a room and sharing experiences.
So, as part of, I suppose, taking a more proactive stance, you did come up with a solution for the women and for their children as we go into the school year, and you tried this earlier on. Can you tell us about your schooling pod? Because that seems like a great way of alleviating some stress that women would feel.
So what we did was we turned our boardroom, which is no longer being used because we can't have board meetings, into a school classroom. We have computer stations in there. We have a big TV if they need to watch movies or films for their classes. We've got every kind of school supply they could possibly need. And then we also hired a teacher to help each child make sure that they're meeting their goals and have somebody to ask for help during the remote learning sessions.
So, who's in the classroom? How many kids that we're talking about? What does it look like on a day to day?
Well, we open up at 9 o'clock, and the kids are there until 3:30, and they have two recesses to have, some runaround time and lunch and all of those really critical things for kids. Um, and we have a wonderful teacher who welcomes them, gets them all set up, has each child has kind of a learning station at a desk. And all the children live together in the shelter, so they're already kind of in each other's social bubble. So we wear masks, but we're not as worried as having 30 kids in a room or 20 kids in a room. Right now, we have 5 children who come every day. They're all elementary school age. I think our youngest just started kindergarten for the first time, so she comes for half a day and then she goes to play. And then we have a couple of older kids who are in high school, so they're doing the combination in school and at home learning, but they can kind of do it on their own. If they want to come and help and have a quiet place to study, they're more than welcome to come to the pod, and some of them may choose to. But right now, I think the older kids are kind of feeling it out for themselves, and they're trying to spread their wings and be a little bit more independent. So we're going to let them do that. But right now, we've got the grade schoolers, and they're awesome.
So, talk to me about how the women in the shelter are responding to this.
Oh, they're so happy. They're just so relieved. They were, they're like all parents. They really sat down and were in crisis about whether or not their children would be safe to return to school. And we also have the added pressure of knowing that if one person comes down with the virus, it affects everybody else in the shelter. We've got 16 family units, so it can affect a lot of people. And they didn't want that blame on their kids. They didn't want the kids to carry that stress, especially when they're busy trying to heal. So to just know that the kids are okay, that they don't have to worry about COVID so much, that they're just relieved. They're just, you could just feel the relief when we told them that their kids could stay with them and still go to school.
That's just such an incredible, positive, good news story. I love it. What about funding? I mean, what would you say to your regular donors and to potential new donors in this new era of no in-person fundraisers? What's your ask?
That's tough, because a lot of our regular donors could also be affected by the economic downturn. And a lot of our funding depends on individual donations. So if you have the luck in life to not be affected by the economic downturn, please give generously. And you can give online at harmonyhousews.com. And we need things for money like school supplies and Chromebooks and snacks for the kids and paying the salary of the educator. But then we also just have a shortage of spaces in the city in general. So if you were affected by the economic downturn and you don't have money to donate, you can still really help us by contacting a local political representative and saying that this issue matters to you and you want to know what they're doing to support domestic violence shelters, because there just isn't enough beds available and the wait lists are long.
Finally, Ray, in this new era, I suppose you could say, of human history, are you hopeful for the future?
Absolutely hopeful for the future. I think crisis tends to bring out the best in people far more than it brings out the worst. I think there are good news stories of communities coming together and getting creative and finding solutions wherever you look. And people say they want to get back to normal, but I don't think normal was that great to start with. So I'm going to say I want to get back to better. I think there are better ways to do things, and I think we're going to find them because of this crisis.
Well, that does it for this week's episode of Operation Support Local. I want to remind you that if you have a story idea, please visit our website to find out more information how you can contact our producers. That website is rogerstv.com. Make sure you tune in each and every Friday for new episodes at 6:30 p.m. right here on Rogers TV.